that's the same for his, I was able to download this really heavy down on my computer. Who's driving? Yeah. Just be easier to drive. Yeah. No. 7 hours? Maybe 7 minutes.
Wow.
Go to the cozy club for barbecue. Last time I was there,
we gotta take time.
You know, it's not like there's somewhere like famous for Memphis, but that one.
Exactly. And I even knew that one.
Oh
I thought it was maybe
you have to find like the so far it's museum. I just think it's like at the hotel I'm sure interesting. Now are you going to get the best day? Well, so I'm sure that's the same rule. I don't know how that's going. At least we jump. I have Tyler Valley, who's pitching really well for your squad. Yep. I tried to trade for Joey's. He's here. It's a good combination. He's just so rare. Yeah, sure. You did.
That's the second time.
First I thought Jordan dissed me and didn't say hello. Now you walk
I'm the only
on.
cadet person. I can't speak for Jordan. I told you before, I spoke.
I'll just leave if you want me to. I mean, I'm happy to head home. We worked it out. It's all right. I think we'll be okay. They are nice. You're correct. Be here for game 7. 1 and 7. That's all they got.
Really pulling for necessary rest. I stayed on hustle. I mean, bro, it's not cold. Because it's not like I don't have, it's a dry call. It's very like
All right, Dr. Lorenzi.
I got to say, everybody should be. I wouldn't like there you go. I mean, you're like extra. That's funny. You like COVID-19.
There were some people that needed more return, to be honest with you. Oh, well, the shutdown game was here. That was them. They were here. I was here.
I was in front of him like a fight. She's terrible.
You know you had that.
Don regarded 65 or whatever. 65? I still toast you. Everybody belong. He commented on
I think it's good riddance. I'm glad they put their foot down. I think that they might be a bit worse because of it. But it's the principle.
It's supposed to be the year or something.
Against Chattanooga, SEC play, he was a game man. It's the sophomore. Yeah, he was just a game manager. Yeah. The thing is, if their defense is good like last year, then they're the same team. I don't trust that their defense is going to be that good.
You take a look at this.
He's a 5-star. Quarterback. This is why you take your trash high ball.
That's a long shot. We haven't decided to have to. I've been there before, but I was there when Kentucky played. One of the picture of Jordan McIntyre standing like a GoPro.
Yeah, spring game.
Yeah, you might be the most like.
think Chicago really desensitized you or something? I wish I heard Memphis never said.
He's still there.
What's the delta?
Well, there's three here.
I wouldn't want to fly that.
It's south.
There's one in Norman that does.
Yeah, there's three.
Okay, I got me another one. Now, when's this figured out?
It's no like Stanley Hart. It's just a
It's like 10 years old. And it's been
Like that.
yeah. It's not just about count.
I imagine not.
Oh, that's right.
Mark, you guys have one of the younger teams in the league still accruing playoff experience, but the organization has 125 plus playoff games, and there's so much corporate knowledge. I just wonder how valuable that is in series, as you're starting another playoff run here.
Yeah, it's critical. The biggest thing in the playoffs is trying to limit distractions, and our group of people, especially our support staff, does a great job of making sure there are no distractions with from travel, smoothness, if that's a word, to tickets, all that kind of stuff. Just like limit everything, keep everything out the door, and focus on the games. And so it's a huge advantage for us. It puts the wind at our back.
Mark, what have you seen from Scottie Pippen Jr. as a defender in order to kind of make up for his lack of size?
Pressure, quickness, tenacity. He's a good competitor, great competitor, that's going to play kind of chest to chest to his man. He's done a great job this season in different situations, done a great job on Curry at different times and different matchups like that. So he's feisty, reminds me of like Schroeder, who was here, a guy that's undersized but can compensate with toughness and quickness and those sorts of things. So a competitor we have respect for.
Mark, it felt like, especially early in that second quarter, when Jalen was leading that lineup, it felt like Memphis challenged him to make the same read a few times. What do you sort of think about the way he sort of embraced that challenge of being a playmaker against that look?
Yeah, I mean, he's proved to be a very potent offensive player, and those guys tend to get crowds from the defense, and Memphis was definitely creating a crowd around him. I also think Jackson being on the floor does that to a degree, because he's he's so wired to shot block that when he's out there with Edey, he kind of collapses and it creates a crowd in the paint, which makes it hard to get cracks at the basket, but opens up perimeter passes, and we found those early especially, and Wiggs delivered some makes, and that loosened them up a little bit. But we're going to need Dub to continue to have the blend of scoring, on multiple levels, and attacking and creating, and he's done a great job of that all year.
And Isaiah got asked about the double big lineup for the millionth time the other day, but he said that he felt like when him and Chet figured it out on defense was when they realized that they both can't run toward the rim. Do you remember when they sort of realized that, and what have you felt the difference has been since in the way they share the floor together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's situational. They have a similar dynamic with Edey and Jackson when those guys are out there together. You get two guys that rim protect, and you don't want to waste that by keeping one of them on the perimeter. You want to be a deterrent at the rim to a degree and force teams to eliminate that option. But you also need to understand personnel. The Sacramento game stands out as an extreme. They made a bunch of threes. Keegan Murray made a bunch of threes. And we also shut the rim off, and that's a game that I think we learned, that we probably need to be a little bit more aware when we've got one of those guys on a shooter. But at the same time, we shut the rim off that night, and that's a huge advantage for us defensively. So they're still learning, we're still figuring it out, but they've done a great job, and the most important thing is they've taken a great approach to it, and that's why it's improved so quickly.
In Game 1, Chet gets 10 rebounds. I don't think in last year's playoffs, I think he had one game of double-digit rebounds, but it really stood out because he only plays 21, 22 minutes. What exactly did you see from him that sort of allowed that to happen? Was it some lucky bounces, or what went into it?
No, it wasn't lucky. He was chasing the ball. Some of it was offensive glass. He had the one on Pippen where they got cross-matched on him, and he just went and got the ball in transition. And I think the Hartenstein thing helps him there, because Hart is a great blockout guy. He's a great rebounder. He eats a lot of space, and it keeps Chet off of the five-man's body a lot of times, and it lets him go get the ball. Last year, or even at times this year, when you're really small and it's an elite offensive rebounder, he's occupied by that guy with the blockout, and it makes it harder for him to go get the ball. And so I don't think it's like something he's improved at. I think the Hartenstein thing has unlocked him to a degree there.
Yeah, Mark, I know the scoring generally goes down in the playoffs, but 10 playoff games so far, I think only 3 teams have scored more than 100. Have you noticed any kind of trends league-wide that's going to suppress scoring even more this postseason?
I think all the things that kind of are cliche with the playoffs, they're cliches for a reason because they're true. I think there is more physicality. There's more possession games. The games kind of unfold like possession games just because of the intensity of them and how good the defenses are. There tend to be less turnovers by the data. And then I think, generally, guys are playing more minutes, and I think that can impact the pace as well. So all that, comes together, converges, and I think you get lower pace games generally.
Mark, the Grizzlies said after the last game they couldn't play much worse. I know you said that you expect them to be better. I know you guys try to almost psychologically put yourself in the opponent's shoes. Is that a challenge for tonight to get ready for a bounce back effort from them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge every night, and that's why we emphasize that so much during the year. We beat that up, obviously, and that's, you guys have heard us say that a million times, but there's a reason for it because, last year we won game 1 by a point or something like that, but it's still you're 1-0 in the series, and this year we won it in a blowout, and you're still 1-0 in the series, and the other team's going to be just as motivated, whether they lose by 1 or lose by, a lot of points, to come in here and even the series, and so we're going to get a more physical, more motivated, more connected, faster opponent tonight, and it's very predictable. And you don't need to look much further than any playoff series. I mean, if you look at Detroit, I watched the first few minutes of Detroit, New York last night, and that was definitely the tone, of that game. Detroit just came out with their hair on fire, and so we've got to just understand that's going to be what it is tonight.
Coach, it sure seems like the playoffs have been refereed, that it's been more physical. Are you better suited for that type of game or a less physical game?
I've said all along, all I care about is consistency. As long as there's consistency end to end, game to game, we'll adjust to the officiating. And so the problems come in when it's inconsistent. But the game should be the most consistent of the year right now because officials advance in the playoffs just like teams do. So these are the best officials in the league as decided by the league. And so you've got very, very strong crews, very, very experienced crews, and generally very, very good crews. And so we go into every game anticipating a fair, consistent whistle because these are the best refs in the league. And the only time I ever have a complaint is when I don't feel like that's the case, but usually I do.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thanks.
post-game pressers, if you could cooperate and just keep the phone along the left side here and nothing in the middle. Keep the shot as clean as possible. Thank you.
Coach, first, obviously last game you talked about, you guys never playing like that again and wanting to be better. After practice and, walkthroughs yesterday, how do you assess how those went heading into today's matchup?
Well, I think there's a few things we can definitely do better. We had a lot of turnovers that not only didn't give us a chance to score, but also led to the other end in the fast breaks. Some of our biggest struggles in the first half especially was not controlling the defensive boards, which gave them a lot of second shot opportunities. And then we also slowed the game down by fouling a lot. They spent a lot of time on the free throw line with high efficiency shots, and that also slowed us down. So those are definitely things we can do better.
Dynamic drivers and rim pressure guys in the league. You'll see a lot of teams going to drop against him. What sort of extra dynamic of a weapon does Hartenstein allow for the Thunder to have just as a guy in sort of that pocket with those floaters?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like they have a very complementary relationship because Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the elite guys in creating paint touches, and in order to take away those, defenses have to resort to either most of the time putting two guys on him, and then you have a guy in Hartenstein who's kind of his outlet valve, who not only finishes with a high percentage with his floater, but also is able to distribute it to the open shooters. And if you don't account for him, he's going to do damage on the offensive boards, and that's how good teams are built, on these interactions of the players that complement each other.
Talk about, last game, Jaren not being able to get it going, but wanting to get him going this game, and with the outlook of, the double big lineups that, OKC is able to put out there, which made him struggle. How would you factor in how these past couple of days have tried to get him going for today's game as well?
Jaren's played the whole season at an all-NBA level, and that's what we come to expect from him. He's anchored our defense, where he's been great all season. Offensively, he's a dual threat. He's the guy as a walking mismatch. That's why teams throw two guys at him, and he's been making those passes out of the post, but he can also step to the outside and beat guys from there. It's overall a very interesting matchup, and all he needs to do is be himself. He's been doing it for us the whole season, and that's what we need also in the playoffs.
When you look at, the last game, we talked about how when Ja Morant went out, I think late in the first quarter, OKC went on that run. When you assess that situation, is the answer as simple as playing Ja more or just executing better when he's not in the game?
I mean, if it were that simple, we would just play him 48 minutes and there would be no diminishing returns. But he's also human and he needs a little bit of rest, and we need to figure out what to do in those minutes, or rather we need to be better in those minutes, and definitely starts with the coaching staff and myself, and putting guys in better spots and putting the ball in the guy's hands who can create advantages for us. But again, like the first quarter, I had this intuition. Sometimes it's wrong after the games. It's good to watch the game, but we actually created a lot of quality looks early in the game that we didn't convert, and that can sometimes then drive you to believe that you need to be doing something else. But we need to stick to course, play with our identity, and that's the solution.
When you looked back at your turnovers from game one, how many were maybe self-inflicted versus, turnovers that you can sort of live with that the defense maybe created?
I mean, I don't look at it like that. I just look at more the conditions that we had in those situations. So first of all was the slow pace that was caused by their offensive rebounding and us fouling. And then when we got to the offensive end, a lot of times we were playing out of spacings that weren't optimal. And when you do that against a team of this level, with the level of point of attack defenders they have, but also the off-ball activity, the shifts and the stunts of these players and their work rate, it's going to be very difficult to even deliver that pass on time and on target. So there's several things that go into it, and they're all things that we have been working on and keep working on between the games.
You mentioned their point of attack defenders. When you've got guys like Dort and Wallace and Caruso, how do you sort of prepare for the amount of pressure they can put on the ball?
Well, it's, we have also those guys in practice. We have Scottie Pippen. We have had Jalen Wells, throughout the season, apply tremendous ball pressure also in practice, and that has helped our guys also, and it's been one of our biggest strengths too. And we just gotta flip it over and also use that against them, because always there's two sides to each coin. So you can use that pressure either against yourself or against the other team, and that's what we need to do and adjust to the pace of the game.
You mentioned Scottie. Kind of what about his traits stand out to you that makes him such a high-level defender despite his size?
Well, the motor, first and foremost. He's been playing very high minutes lately, and still he's picking up full court. He's denying the best playmakers in the other team, and he has tremendous set of hands also that he's able to kind of put his hand in a cookie jar and get some steals. And overall, he's a very disruptive defender and excels in on-ball situations, and is a very good complementary player. That's really taken a lot of steps forward and has become a key rotation player for us.
You have mentioned sticking with the team identity multiple times. With the changes and everything that's happened this year and some of the adjustments you've made, what does that look like at this point in the season? What is the team's identity?
Well, it's still the exact same things. We need to play faster than the other team before the defense gets set. So even though Thunder had the best transition defense in the whole league this season, it's still giving up more points in transition on average than in the half court. So we must continue to do that. Then offensively, generate the best possible shot through the interactions and through also trust in each other, that when we have a guy open, we're gonna hit that guy, and that guy is gonna make a good decision, and then have a very high work rate, which means that when the shot goes up, we do not anticipate that the shot is going in, but rather we are already starting the next phase, which is looking for that loose ball or the rebound, or then setting up our defense. And you can invert that to the defense. So you want to play with numbers defensively. That means you want to have 5 guys back as many possessions as possible. You obviously need the help of your offense for that, because you don't want to be turning the ball over. You need multiple efforts from guys to make sure you get to the shooters in every single situation, and then you need to clean up the board. So to be consistent, they are the same 3 things in both ends. Thank you.
First, she's going to do gun DP. Then they said she'll get 1 or 2 players, then like 5 or 6. So they said.
That's a long